Guys are in the car waiting with Dale. Crowe's Corner this morning. Promised you guys some prison stories. The only prison story I can think of to start with is my initiation with God. It's important, it's what changed my life. And I'm gonna try to make this kind of short because of the video, the way they do these videos. So anyway, hopefully you don't mind sitting and listening if you want to hear it. If not, turn it off. I don't care. But I'm journaling to you guys my prison story, my initiation with God. I call it the Valley of Death because I was indeed in the Valley of Death when I met God, and I was in the process of taking another life, a life that I felt disrespected me. I was 19 years in, or I was 1 year in on my prison sentence. 19 years ago, I was badly disrespected by a CO. I wasn't having it, and it embarrassed me. I'm big on embarrassment. I don't like being embarrassed in front of people, and that's a big ego trait. I recognize it today. Not such a big deal. But back then, I was embarrassed in front of many inmates, and my reputation was everything to me. So my commissary day was taken from me because it was a frivolous argument that I had with a staff member, and he pretty much emasculated me, I felt like, in front of everybody. So I go off on the yard that day, and my job was to pick up trash. On the trash job, what I found was a twisted piece of rebar. It could be used as a knife. I thought it was a sign, I could kill this guard the next morning, easily go into his office and jam it in his neck 1,000 times, and I'd be a legend. In my mind, my sick mind, I'd be a legend. I'd get a 48-hour episode, maybe a Dateline episode. People would be coming to see me left and right. I was used to getting bags of mail every week. I was used to having visits every other day, but 1 year in on my prison bit, that stuff starts to dwindle. Your importance starts to diminish. And I was sick about it because I'm used to having a lot of attention. So I contemplate what I'm doing that day. I know what I'm about to do the next morning. I'm going to take myself from the world that I knew for life, because I'm going to take this CEO's life. Anyone who's ever done something like this before knows that feeling inside you. There's no lines that can be crossed because you've already crossed all lines. There's a void in your heart, an empty space, and life is nothing to you. So that night, I'm looking at a psychology book because I want to know what's wrong with me. I wanted to know what the traits are for something like this. I'm looking at psychopaths and everything, so I laid my book on a box, my cellmate's box. He's a hardcore Christian named Crowe. Great guy, and he's always trying to proselytize me, though, and get me into prison or get me into church. Wasn't for church at the time. I set it on his box. I get up to make me some coffee. Cole comes in, sees the book, and makes a joke. He said, "Get this crap off my box." He said, "I don't need this on my box." Well, I took it personal, and I snapped, and I threw him out of the cell. I took his stuff. I threw it out on the range. I said, "Look, you're out. You're not selling. You're not living in here anymore. Get out." And it's almost count time, So he's in confusion, staying on the range, don't have a place to live. I slammed the door. I was an asshole. I was. But he don't have no place to go, so the CO comes up to me, and I'm in there. I'm upset. I'm crying on the rack because I know I'm about to take a life again the next morning. And he comes in there. I'm upset, crying, and sits next to me, talks me out of it. Says let the guy come back in. He won't say anything to you. So long story short, I agree to it. Cole comes in. He's on the top bunk. I'm on the bottom. We're laying there, getting ready to fall asleep. He can hear that I'm upset, and he says, "Crowe?" I said, "Cole, you're not supposed to talk to me. Go to sleep." He said, "I just want you to know I love you, buddy. But have you ever prayed to Jesus?" And at the time, I wasn't ready to hear that, I punched the top of the bed. I said, "Cole, go to sleep." But I laid there with that and I thought about Jesus. I thought about prayer. What is prayer, So I did. I'm at the bottom of the barrel. My heart was calling out, You don't know you need God till God is all you got. I surrendered that night, man. I did. I cried and I went to sleep. And I said a prayer to myself that I knew how to pray. And I said, if you're real, if you hear me, come into my heart. Take away this pain. Take away this thought in my mind that I'm about to do. You can take this hurt away and you can have me in the morning. I never meant those words more. Eventually I fell asleep that night. And when I woke up the next day, it is like all the layers that defined a Dale Crowe had been burned away. Like I was on fire with love. I was so emotional. I was hugging people, hugging Cole, hugging all my buddies because they all tried to talk me out of doing what I was going to do. And I was so sorry, and I was on fire though. Didn't know what had happened. God had answered my prayers, people. God is real. He heard me that night. I was so emotional, I went down to apologize to the CO. Everybody tried to deter me from that because they thought I might go the hole. I said, no, I got to tell this guy what was on my heart. Went down there and apologized to him. And I walk in the door and he's leaning on the wall. He looks at me. What do you want? I said, listen, I'm not here to disrespect you. I said, just want to come in and tell you I'm sorry for yesterday. I was out of line. I disrespected your rules. I wanted to apologize to you. He said, is that it? I said, yes. And he said, bye. He said, bye, like cocky, I said, all right. So I turned around and I left. Get about halfway up the block and he comes out and calls me. Says, get back here. I think I'm in trouble. So I go back. I said, yes. He said, did you really come back here to say that to me? And I said, yes, sir. I said, you don't know what was on my mind yesterday. I said, we don't have to go into details. I said, but I was in a bad way over you, I said, I'm sorry. I just want to tell you I was sorry. And he sat there with that and he said, sometimes it's not all about you, Crowe. He said, sometimes us CEOs are going through things at home. And your cocky attitude yesterday triggered me off and I said some things I shouldn't have said. He said, so, he was going through a nasty divorce at home. I don't know these things. And he took that out on me. He said he accepted my apology. He shook my hand. This CEO is not supposed to shake your hand. But he shook my hand. He said he forgave me. And then he asked, he said, do you still want to shop? I said, hell yeah, I got no food in my box. He told me to come back later that afternoon and he would take care of me. He told me to keep my head up. Things were going to be okay. So my point is, it isn't that God gave me a store day. My point is that God came into my heart and changed things, changed the whole scenario. And from that point, all kinds of things started happening. This facilitated a big healing for me for over years. A book came to me after that I never found out who sent to me, from Wayne Dyer, called The Power of Intention. That one book hit me in a universal way that I needed to be hit. I understood God in a different way. It led me into A Course in Miracles. It led me into the teachers that I follow today, David Hoffmeister. It changed my heart. I can't be that person anymore. The mask fell off of me. And I started to teach that in prison, it started to catch on. I wrote a letter to David Hoffmeister telling him what his teachings meant to me. That one letter unfolded into a 1.7 million inmates across the United States. It's a ministry now called the Last Step Ministry. We're available on Adovo, a teaching pad, platform that reaches all these inmates. And the point is that I didn't do that, but God did that. God lives through you. As you change your heart and take off all these masks, the essence that you are is Christ. The Christ is the presence. You speak through that and you act through that, and miracles happen. God damn it, don't get me all emotional with you. My point is, though, it's a prison story that I felt was pertinent to you guys because God came into my life at a time I was about to take another life. He reached me, though, and I haven't been the same since. You know, you have to come to a point in your life where you see that you need God. This world is not made by God. This world that you see is made by your ego. Whatever situation you're living in, it's from your choices. Your choice to be separate from the whole. You know, I came out of prison, things have just unfolded for me like a dream. You know, I'm working a great job. I'm in the marriage of my dreams. I'm in my dream state. Everything is beautiful. But it's because what's inside of me is blooming, it's beautiful. You know, and I want that for everybody. Till next time on Prison Talk with Dale. I love you. I do. I hope you guys can find this peace in your heart, and yeah, have a good day.